I think so. 3:31, and we'll get the show on the road.
All right, awesome. Okay.
Sorry, Stephanie.
No worries. Go ahead, Sarah.
We're just going to do just a check-in. It is the tail end of most of our days, and maybe for some of you in a different time zone, it's even later than that. But I'll put the link to the slides in the chat, and this is just a hey, Will. Let's see here. You're going to drag the check mark to how you're feeling just at the moment, and it's a safe space. So we're going to see how we're all feeling as a whole today at 3:30 on a Tuesday. And it's anonymous too. So again, safe space. So Catherine, if you want to click on the link above there, you can have access to it to choose your own check mark on there.
And alternatively, you can pop a word in the chat. If these words are too small, go ahead and pop a word in the chat for it to describe how you're feeling.
Tired. That's a real truth.
Yep.
For sure. I'll relink. There you go.
All right. Well, we welcome you into the space in whatever quadrant you may be in today. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, and Sarah's going to introduce our team.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here, all of you, today at the end of your day. We are the Teacher Innovation Network, and this is our third or fourth EdTech playground that we have hosted, and we consist of 5 EdTech coordinators and TOSAs from 4 different county offices. So we're a pretty amazing team. This is our labor of love is putting these sessions on for you all. So I'm Sarah Colbeck, the EdTech coordinator at Shasta County Office of Education. I'm way far up north in California, just a little bit south of Oregon. And Stephanie is my counterpart here today. She's the EdTech and Innovation TOSA at the Santa Cruz County Office of Education. And then our friends Krista and Anu and Tawny weren't able to join us there. They've got some computer science, some other things they're working on today. So we're excited that you're here, and can't wait to get started with AI.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So before we move forward, we just wanted to go over some tech norms for today. So just remember to mute and unmute strategically. If you're able, we love seeing your faces, so go ahead and share your video. If that doesn't feel right for you today, you're welcome to turn your camera off. I know that a lot of us have had a long school day, and so we might be working in our classroom, so feel free to turn your camera off if that feels better. We love if you participate. We love seeing things in the chat. We love the reactions, so we encourage you to participate. And of course, We're adults, so if you need a break, please feel free to take a break, grab water or a snack as needed. We are still working on the kinks of how to track participation in our EdTech playgrounds. So we are hoping that you can do us a favor and just really quickly, if you could check the name that's displaying on your Zoom by finding your image, hovering over and making sure that it has your first and last name. If not, go ahead and click on the 3 dots on the top right of your image or your square if your camera's turned off, and rename yourself so that we can see who's here with your first and last name. This is especially important for those of us that are California educators and attending to get that stipend. All right, perfect. Thank you. I see a few friends that renamed. That's awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. Our agenda for today, we started with a welcome, a little overview of our Teacher Innovation Network and the EdTech playgrounds that we've hosted so far. We are so lucky to have 2 amazing featured speakers today that are going to be talking all about artificial intelligence in education. And they'll take up most of today's time, which is amazing. And then at the end, we are going to close sharing some information about the asynchronous assignment and the stipend opportunity if you're a California educator. So we do want to just take a moment and thank our partners who have made it possible for that stipend. So this includes the amazing CDEF Foundation and the Seasons of CS, and also the Educator Workforce Investment Grant. We are going to be asking that you sign in, but that's going to come a little bit more towards the end of the meeting. So don't worry, you're here, you've renamed yourself with your first and last name, and more towards the end, we'll be sharing a sign-in sheet. Just a small plug, if you haven't already heard of the Seasons of CS, they're an amazing opportunity. Sarah, in just a moment, is going to drop the link in the chat. They're an amazing organization that hosts a series of different computer science professional learning opportunities. Coming up next is Autumn of CS with a bunch of amazing PD. So I highly recommend, yes, Lindsay is giving them a shout out in the chat. I highly recommend that you check them out if you enjoy today's session and you're looking to learn a little bit more about computer science. On that note, I think we have a special guest. I think I saw her on the chat. Kat, are you here with us?
I am, yes.
Amazing. All right, Kat, do you want to talk a little bit about digital learning and computer science?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to thank everyone for being here. And as you saw that this is, you may be eligible to receive a stipend through monies for computer science professional learning. And you may be saying, but I'm here for EdTech, I'm here for digital learning. I don't know much about computer science, but the great part is the ISTE standards, which are what we follow with EdTech, these road signs along the way, lead us to success with computer science. So as you are engaging in this learning, it is a great road to computer science, and it will really help you and your students to get there. So there are, I'm not able to stay the whole time today, but there's a slide at the end of today's playground that will talk a little bit about what concept areas in computer science were touched upon in this AI session. So just wanted to kind of call that out. And if you're interested in AI, by the way, there is a webinar tomorrow, or probably what's going to happen is this, Stephanie. I have a feeling that people here are teachers and are going to say, wow, this is great. My admin needs to know about AI. Sometimes your administrators want to hear it from CDE, right? So there's a CDE AI webinar tomorrow. So send them there, and then they will be able to support you in all the great things that you are going to be learning today from some amazing presenters. I'll put that link in the chat, and have a wonderful, wonderful time. Thanks for being here.
Perfect. Thanks, Kat. And yeah, we have a slide with that information that we'll share again before today's session closes. So if you wrap up and you're like, wait, what was that Kat shared with us? I want to remember to go. We will share that again before the end. Okay. We have a tradition at our EdTech playgrounds, which is we love to take a group picture because we love seeing all the educators that have joined us, not only from across California, but beyond, to sort of enjoy and learn something new around EdTech. So we're going to pause for a second, fix your hair, get ready, get your camera face on, go ahead and turn on your camera. Thanks, Will, if you're ready. And we're going to take a picture. And I'm noticing, Sarah, I have 4 screens of people. We have so many people here today. It's amazing. So it might take a second because Sarah's going to go ahead and take our picture. I'm going to stop sharing. All right.
Awesome. So in the geeky world, we call this an USSI. This is, I've heard this from my friend Martin Cisneros. If we have any Martin fans out there, it's not a selfie, it's an USSI, right? Because it's all of us. So let's see, we are going to have to take a few. So you won't know if you're on my screen, but if we could just hold the smile, I'm going to take this screen really quick. So big smiles. Yay. All right. And okay. And yep. Okay, next one. So big smiles. Okay, awesome. You guys are so good at this. Okay, here we go. Third one. Big smiles. Helps if your camera's on too, if you want your picture taken, but if you don't. Okay, last one. Big smiles. Awesome. All right. Thank you for taking the time to do that. And keeping up.
And if your eyes were closed, we might use the power of AI to open them for you, Will. We'll see if we can figure out a solution for you. Okay, sure. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And Sarah's going to introduce our presenters for today.
Seriously, the fact that I just get to introduce these two, we are in the presence of EdTech royalty. I know you know that, but if you don't, I'm going to introduce these 2 amazing educators. So first, just thank you for being with us and sharing all of your knowledge today, Joe and Sam. So first, Joe Marquez, aka the EdTech MacGyver, is a passionate educator, technology leader, and the director of academic innovation at CUE. That's a pretty sweet title. His innovative spirit, outgoing attitude, and outrageous personality have earned him the coveted titles of Google Certified Innovator, Google Certified Trainer, Common Sense Ambassador, Apple Teacher, Flipgrid Student Voice Ambassador, and Microsoft Innovative Educator. Joe is also the co-host of the Sons of Technology podcast on the YouTube channel and a member of the EdTech Army and an all-around great techie guy. Okay, so Sam, Stephanie and I were just talking about this. Sam got a lot of us through digital learning. So if you have ever gone on YouTube and searched how to do something in EdTech, you have seen Sam's amazing smiling face. He helped us a lot, and he continues to. He is a digital media teacher with over 15 years of experience as a classroom teacher, instructional coach, and an education consultant. He is the founder of New EdTech Classroom. That might sound familiar. A teacher-led organization dedicated to helping educators learn how to create authentic and meaningful learning experiences with technology. Sam is a regular presenter at national conferences such as FETC, ISTE, CUE, AIM, and California STEAM. Sam's YouTube channel about innovative teaching and technology has gained over 11 million views while reaching a global audience of over 200,000. So thank you both for being here. We're excited to learn from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. And I think what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a kind of a game of tetherball, right, Sam? I'm going to share my screen, and Sam, when you want to jump on in, come on in into the pool, and then you're going to be guiding us through some prompt engineering. It's going to be a fantastic time here, everybody. There is a link that I wanted to share with you in the chat. Everything I'm going to go over, all the links to the slide decks, all the links to the different tools that I'm going to be talking about, they're in that Padlet, and I constantly add to the Padlet. Is a living Padlet, so that's a great piece of resource to be able to save and bookmark on any browser that you choose. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly so we can get started. All righty, so here we go. So we're going to be talking about generative AI in the classroom. And I want to make sure that we understand that's the term we're looking at is generative AI, not chat GPT. We don't want to genericize this term that we're talking about, because there's so many different tools that we are talking about when we're looking at generative AI. Now, the only thing on this slide I want you to know is my email, because if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. That is my position at CUE, is helping California and Nevada and Oregon educators to achieve everything they want to do through EdTech. So please definitely never feel hesitant to reach out to me at jmarquez@q.org. All righty. So we are living in a very special time, everybody. We are living in something called a Promethean moment. And a Promethean moment is a time in history where something new is invented or discovered that completely changes the way humans interact or do things in society. It's something that changes not just one thing, but changes everything. And that's what generative AI has done to us in just the small amount of time that it's been available to the public. Now, generative AI has been around for a while, but it really exploded on the scene in November of 2022. I can't believe it hasn't even been a year yet, through ChatGPT. And everything that it does really changes the game for how we can create and be creative. A lot of people think that these tools are going to take away creativity. I think it's going to actually enhance creativity, enhance what we can do with our students. It will not hinder it. But there's been so many Promethean moments in history. The one thing that makes this different is that every other Promethean moment took time to gestate. The internet was invented in the late 80s, but it didn't really take hold until the early 2000s. And I blame Napster for that. Right. And it really didn't take hold in the classroom until like 2011, when E-rate started coming out and devices started to shrink in price. And I blame that on the Chromebook for finally leveling out that market. But it took time for that to happen. This right here, generative AI, happened now. The infrastructure was there. The devices were there. It is very important for us to understand that it is here in the hands of our students, in the hands of our teachers. We need to learn how to live with it, because it's going to permeate all facets of business and society. It's going to be as ubiquitous as spell check within our students' learning. So we have to be able to guide our students through how to ethically and efficiently utilize this tool in the classroom. And we, the educators, are the first line of defense in that. So what is generative AI? Well, it's a term that talks about these and more tools that are out there. Generative AI is something that creates something brand new from a prompt from you, from an ask from you saying, hey, machine, I want you to do this for me. And it says, okay, let's do it. And it makes it. That's what generative AI is. And the tools that we're talking about are text generators like ChatGPT, GPT-4, Bard, one of my new favorites, Claude. These are the text generative tools. But there's amazing image generation tools. If you have not tried Midjourney before, it will blow your mind, creating any image just based off of a text prompt. And then, of course, down the line, Music LM is already something that's being beta tested in Google to create music from a prompt. Their video is going to be shortly behind. There's already ones out there that create 5-second videos from any of your prompts. Some of them are very nightmare fuelish when they actually get created, but it'll get there. So it's very important for us to understand that it's going to permeate all facets of media and creation. And that's actually one of the reasons why the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America are going on strike because of how these generative AI tools are going to impact their creativity going forward. That's a huge portion of what that strike is about. Now, these tools are very nuanced. There's a lot of different ways to explain it. There's a lot of dissertations that can be read to you about it. But I think the easiest way for you to understand what generative AI is Plinko from The Price is Right, right? The prompt is dropping the Plinko chip from the top. What happens in the middle, bouncing off all the different deep learning aspects of these generative tools. And then down at the bottom, what it gives you, the money, right? That's why the graphic off to the left, this is exactly how generative tools work. You drop in your chip, which is your text prompt. It goes through a series of modeling, a deep learning, this large language model filled with information, looking for patterns that humans have contributed, whether through licensing it out or just because it's on the internet and it's taken. But by pinging back and forth and looking for those similarities, it creates a brand new original prompt, original response. That means every single one of your students in your classroom can put in the same exact prompt and they will all receive different answers in the back end. They will not be the same. They're all different. The crazy thing about this is all these engineers can tell you how they built it. They cannot tell you what the heck is going on in the middle. And to some people, that is scary. To some people, that means it's like, well, if we don't know what's happening, we should stop it before it takes over the world, right? But it just means that there's so much going on because this deep learning is built upon the idea of a neural network in a brain that these new creations are being spit back out. It's very interesting. It's very puzzling, but it can also be very fearful if we don't understand what's going on. But the easiest way to describe what these tools do is this picture. This picture says everything you need to know about generative AI. This picture is from Superman the movie back in the 70s, one of the best Superman movies. And in this picture, you see Jor-El, that's Superman's father, speaking to his son. That is Kal-El, that's Superman. You see, Superman came from a planet Krypton. I'm a little bit geeky, so I'm going to get a little bit geeky with you. He came from a planet Krypton because the planet was going to explode. But before he made it to Earth in his super cradle, he was given a crystal. That crystal was loaded with data. Everything that was ever created on Krypton, all of the art, all of the books, all of the poetry, all of everything, every music, everything was loaded onto this crystal. And it was shipped off with Soupy to his new home, planet Earth. And when he became 16 years old, he threw that crystal, the Fortress of Solitude was created, and his father appeared. He was able to ask his father any question, and he would respond as if he was there in real time. Not pre-recorded responses, but brand new responses based upon the data set found in the crystal. That is generative AI. The crystal is the generative tool. The data set is what was filled into that crystal. In a nutshell, that is what ChatGPT is. That is what Claude is. That is what Bard is. It is a tool to generate completely new responses based upon preloaded data that it can then generate new linguistic responses from humanistic writing. That is generative AI, and that is amazing. The problem is we don't really understand what's in the data sets. Right? All of these tools put the data in, but they don't tell us where they grab the data or how they grab the data. In fact, they call that their proprietary information. That's the secret herbs and spices, so to speak, of these companies, which is funny to me because OpenAI, which started ChatGPT, was started to be a completely open book of how AI is created, and now they won't let us know how their AI is created. I just find that funny. But that is the way that I love to explain generative AI to teachers, to students, and to administrators, because everybody can understand Superman speaking to his dad. And in fact, there is a tool on your phone right now called mindbank.ai that promises to create a data set out of you. It gives you prompts every day, questions, you respond to it. And over time, it starts to linguistically identify how you respond to questions. And it creates a digital twin of you, which you can then pass around to your friends. And it can become the new Siri of their phone. Now, I didn't get past downloading the app because I don't know what they're doing with that information. I just want to let you know these tools are out there. In fact, you are already part of the data set being used by these companies. If you use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you know, those very long terms of service we all agree to just because we want to use the tool. Yeah, you're giving away all your information because you want to tweet, or X. I don't know what they call it now, but that's what they're doing. And so we've agreed to it by clicking on that line. But can you imagine what they did with Superman's father we do in the classroom? Could you imagine if we grabbed every single piece of data of Benjamin Franklin and put it into a machine and said, okay, now that you have a data set of Benjamin Franklin, we want to be able to ask Benjamin Franklin questions about what he thinks about the United States today. Was the kite story actually true? What does he think about the way that we negotiate with France today? Because France was one of his favorite places to travel. We can actually do that through prompting. Right. And I know Sam's going to talk about role playing. When you craft the perfect prompt and you narrow the data set into becoming an expert on Benjamin Franklin, you can actually talk to Benjamin Franklin. Not the real one, of course, but it'll respond as closely as possible based upon the data set that you've given it through your prompting. You can do that with your students today. There is no special sauce to it, just prompt engineering. So let's dive in a little bit to some of these tools. Right, so some of these tools right here that we're going to be looking at, Bard is Google's generative tool. ChatGPT is OpenAI's generative tool. That's what Microsoft is heavily leaning on. So if you ever hear of Bing AI, that is using GPT-4. And then Claude, that's the new player in the game. They promise to be the ethical AI. They promise not to use your information to add to the data set. They promise to really get their data set filtered so that you're not looking at biases, racism, sexism. They really say they focus on harnessing, filtering out those data sets. These are the different tools that are being used today. So how are they being used in the world today? Well, right now, they are actually replacing internet search. Think about how cumbersome internet search is. You go into the Omnibox, you type in your search, it brings you a whole bunch of websites. The top 5 are ads. You scroll past those, you get to the websites, you click on each website, you read each website, you find a couple pieces of information, then go to the next website. Very cumbersome. These tools are being integrated. Let me show you this. This is a secret lab from Google. And all you have to do when you search, it automatically does the same search that Google normally does, but it goes into each website and brings you a summarized version of everything you're looking for in one single summary, right up to the top. And then off to the side, the websites it found most reliable for you. And then if there's any YouTube videos attached to it, they'll find those YouTube videos for you. It is replacing internet search. It is being embedded in all the tools you are currently using. Whether you are a Microsoft user or a Google user, this is what you're going to be seeing now. You guys remember Clippy in Microsoft? You start typing and it says, hey, it looks like you're writing a resume. Would you like me to help you with that? Well, this one would be like, hey, it looks like you're writing a resume. If you tell me what you are, who you are, I can make a great resume for you that guarantees you a job in whatever sector you want, right? It's built in now to these tools. Microsoft is embedding it into Office 365. Google is embedding it into their workspace. They call it Duet. It is going to be as ubiquitous as spell check. We have to make sure our students are utilizing these as co-pilots in their learning and creation, and not just relying on it to create entirely things they're going to turn into you. That's our goal as educators. So I want you to know it's being used now. This is the fastest implementation of something new I've ever seen. It excites me and it scares me at the same time, right? So we have to be able to keep up on it. In fact, one of my favorite ways to utilize this is summarizing texts. I come across about 20 new AI articles every day. It takes so much time to read that. What I do is this. to summarize my texts for me. I go to the website. Here's a new article that just came out yesterday on the U.S. Copyright Office rejecting even more AI-generated images. Everybody's trying to get their AI-generated images copyrighted, and the United States Copyright Office says, no, it has to be human-generated for it to be considered. I wanted to know a little bit more about this, but I couldn't read all of it at the same time. So I have a cool little tool called Postlight Reader that just turns it into just the text that's important. I then hit print and save it as a PDF. And then all I have to do is go into my Claude. I attach that PDF right here into my Claude, hit open, and I say, summarize this for me, enter. It grabs that entire text and it's done. It summarizes the entire article for me right away. If I have 5 articles that are similar, I can upload all 5 and say, can you please give me how all of these articles relate to one another in a 1-paragraph summary? It will do that for you, right? That's how powerful these tools are. And look how fast it did it. Look how fast it did it. Pretty amazing, right? So these tools are permeating society. It's not going away. So we have to learn how to teach with it and teach our students how to use it properly. That's why this is very, very important. That's why Sam and I are both very excited that you are here with us today. Now, one thing we do have to understand is the harm that this could cause. Notice right away the limitations that are listed right on ChatGPT's website is may occasionally generate incorrect information. It does so quite a bit. It's getting better. May occasionally produce harmful or biased content, constantly creates biased content. And it doesn't know the world after 2021. The data set in ChatGPT is limited to September of 2021. So if any of you were looking at utilizing this for your NFL draft this year, it wasn't going to work. If you wanted to do that, Bard would be your best friend. I used it this year for my fantasy draft. It's going great. It told me not to pick Rodgers. It didn't say because he was going to break his Achilles, but he told me not to pick Aaron Rodgers. Okay. So it's really, really smart. So, how are students using this today? Well, they're using it to start paragraphs. One of the hardest parts of starting the writing process is getting the beginning going. How many times have we asked students to start writing and they just sit there with nothing? They don't know where to start. They can utilize these tools as a prompter, as a tutor on how to get started, right? Helping with the conclusion of their paper. Maybe they're stuck. Like I wrote 5 pages and don't know how to finish it. How do I summarize this in a conclusion? They can upload their entire paper and say, can you give me examples of how I should conclude this paper? It will help them. Right? It's replacing internet search. It's helping simplifying complex ideas. It's helping them write computer code. I hope Summer of CS is jumping on this because that is amazing. Getting students to be able to complete code faster. And it tells them why they might have a bug in their code. It's just fantastic the way that students are using this. But again, we have to ensure that students are using this as a co-pilot in their learning process, not replacing the learning process entirely. One of the best analogies I can give you about how students should be utilizing this is something my father-in-law was talking to me about, and that's his e-bike. My father-in-law is nearly 80 years old, broken hips from being a police officer his entire life on the motorcade. And he has a very hard time walking uphill. And the place he lives is completely made of hills. He wants to get around town. And so he bought himself an e-bike. And people made fun of him because he said, you should be pedaling your bike the entire time. And he's like, look, I'm an old man. I can't get over that hill. I want to get over that hill, but I can't. So instead of not even going, I rev it up a little bit. I rev it up to the point that I can get over the hump, get over the hill, and then I continue pedaling myself. I only use the e-bike when I need help. That is how these tools should be used in the classroom, to get our students over the hump, to get over that 15 minutes of not doing anything because they don't know how to get started. to get over the fact that if we send them home to do a project and they don't have that extra help at home, this tool can be that extra help, that extra tutor, that guide on the side with them. These tools are amazing and we have to embrace them. But they're scary because they can do so much. They're scary because they can replicate human writing so well that we start asking ourselves, is this my student's writing or is this AI that wrote it? Now, if we completely ban AI in the classroom, if we keep it in the shadows, we are constantly going to be asking that question. Is my student writing this or is AI writing it? And that creates an antagonistic relationship between a teacher and a student. We cannot have that, right? We cannot have that questioning of, is my student cheating on their work or not? We have to bring it out of the shadows and work with them on how to utilize these tools for good. Because plagiarism, or I try to play AI-jurism, I'm still workshopping that term. It's not necessarily plagiarism, because plagiarism is taking another human's writing and passing it off as your own, right? That's plagiarism. That's what gets you kicked out of college. This isn't plagiarism, but it's not ethical. It's not ethical. We call that an AI abuse. That is called an AI abuse. And we have to make sure we have our students learn how not to abuse these tools. And the reason it's up to us, the reason K-12 educators are so important is because we cannot relegate the decision to our colleges and universities. Our colleges and universities are slow to adapt. I remember when I was a freshman in college, I was told, you may not use the internet to do any research. You must go to the campus library. You must show me where you found the book. You must show the Dewey Decimal System you used to find it. You may not use the internet. Because they didn't understand it. They thought using the internet was cheating. We cannot rely on individuals who don't understand these tools to make the decisions for us. We have to do it as our K-12 educators, because Alice Daly, the chair of academic integrity at Villanueva University, states this. They asked her, how are colleges going to react to the use of generative tools on campus? And she says, my guess is that there's going to be a development of a broad blanket policy that basically states, unless you have permission from a professor, the use of AI tools will be a violation of the academic integrity code. I say no. It should not be up to a single professor who still uses the flip phone. Sorry for anybody who still uses the flip phone, okay? But we shouldn't leave that up to them. We need to guide our students, because just like on resumes or on job applications, it used to say, are you proficient in Word and Excel? It is going to start saying, are you proficient in generative AI tools? Do you know how to prompt engineer? Right? That is why we need our students to understand how to utilize these tools now. So how do we do that? I think one of the most important ways is to identify with our schools, with our districts, with our students, what is an abuse of AI? What is a proper use of AI? We need to craft norms, some guardrails on how these tools will be used. We have to craft them because students will abuse them unless we guide them. Students will use them to write their entire essay unless we show them other ways to do that. If you told a kid, you can either spend 6 hours writing that essay or 5 more hours playing Fortnite, which one are they going to choose? Right? But we have to show them how to utilize these tools properly, right? So for me, I've only found a few abuses of AI, like using prompts to create a completely generated piece of work and turning it as your own. That is an abuse, right? Using pieces of AI in your work and not citing them. That's right. These tools need to be cited as being used in the classroom. Just as if they used a book or a website, they need to be cited. But please don't go off and look up MLA's website or APA's website or Chicago website. They're horrible. They're horrible with how they are citing these tools because they're trying to shoehorn in this archaic style of citations of books and websites into a very, very malleable system of generative AI. Students aren't going to want to do it, and they won't do it if it's boring. I say we craft AI citations in a way that is braggadocious. Have the students brag about how they made these machines do what they do. right? So I have this citation index that I think works pretty great. Now, this isn't the end all be all. You remove what you don't like, you add what you do. But I always think if you used AI anywhere in your paper, it needs to be in the byline. It needs to be. Instantly, the teacher knows, okay, there is some AI use here. I'm going to be ready for it. Okay? That needs to be in that byline. For example, I used ChatGPT to help edit a blog post I did. I tend to weave back and forth between first person and second person, and maybe there's a little bit of word blindness. I utilize these tools to help me edit to make my writing more clear. It was edited by ChatGPT. I needed to state that. And then in the citation page, I have 5 things that I think should be added. You can remove or add if you want, but I think there needs to be the tool. What tool did you use? Is it GPT 3.5? Is it 4.0? Is it Claude? Is it Bard? What did you use? What was your exact prompt? That is key. That's where the students brag about how they made the machine do their bidding for them. Plus, if you read this, you might get a couple extra tips that you never thought of how to prompt. Students are going to help us learn to be better prompt engineers ourselves by reading these. What was the purpose? Why did you even use generative AI? To get you over a hump, to help you conclude? What was the purpose? You need to be able to explain that to me. And it better not be just to get the assignment done faster, right? And then finally, statement of original work. Did you give any of your original work to this machine? Or did it generate something completely brand new for it? And then conclusion, did it work? Did you use a part of it? Did you use all of it? Did you use some of it? Did you read it and then use it to craft your own message back, right? Again, these are things that I've identified that would be useful to me as an educator when I'm identifying its use, but you can add or remove anything that you want. That's the great thing. Nobody can tell us how to do this. We are the front line. We are the ones that will craft the future in how this works. And anybody that tells you they have the 100% answer on how to do this is full of it, because nobody has the answer right now, because things will change in a month, in 2 months, in 6 months, and a year. This is going to be a very malleable process for many years to come. And it's up to us to drive that process. Nobody else but us. And then finally, before we move on, what are some things that we can do as teachers, though, to ensure those guardrails are in place, to ensure the guardrails work? One, I think our students should be supplying supporting documents. Where are your brainstorming documents? Where are your mind maps? Where are your brain dumps, right? You know, where's your one paragraph of everything you knew about this topic before you went into the generative tool? Where is your supporting documents? I don't just want your final draft. I want your beta draft. I want everything as you go through this, and it needs to be together. That's important. Document revision history. Now, if you're a Microsoft school, I don't know where to find this for you, but if you are a Google school, Draftback is phenomenal for this. And there's another one called Content Detector that is great as well. I'm going to show you a graph that can easily tell you if somebody copied and pasted using generative AI. Super easy graph to read. And then finally, I actually got this idea from a teacher after a session I did. She goes, well, if a student wrote it, they should know it, right? I'm going, yeah. She goes, well, can't you just upload their paper into ChatGPT and say, create me a 5-question quiz on this paper and give it to the student? Like, that's a genius idea. As long as it's not a gotcha, as long as it's not like, haha, I think you had somebody write this for you. You have to take this quiz right now. As long as it's part of your, hey, every once in a while, students, if our tools identify as a possibility that this is AI written, we're going to go ahead and do a 5-question personalized quiz based upon what you've turned in. It can't be a gotcha, but it needs to be set in stone as this is something that is possible, right? And so here's these graphs that I was talking about. So this is that originality report that I was talking about. A graph like this, a straight slope like that angled slope, that means it was written in real time with real typing and words appearing over time. That is a great graph of how the item was written. This down here says in 1 second, 3,000 characters were automatically uploaded to this document, right? So this is a great data point to be like, something's fishy here. and my student didn't put that they use this tool in the byline. Something's going on. And then finally, it even creates, this is pretty neat, it even creates a video of the students writing in real time. And you can actually see the writing happening and the big boom jump. If you look over here to this little part, you'll see this big old jump of text just being pasted in. That is a telltale sign that something was copied and pasted on over. So if you have originality reports, if you have these two tools, these are great things to bring to the student's attention and be like, look, I know if you do this, that's why you need to follow the guardrails. And how do we do that? Through teaching the students how to utilize these tools ethically and efficiently, and then also making sure that our students understand the need and importance of prompt engineering, because Sam is going to talk about how teachers can utilize these to save them hours and hours of time. And when Sam shows you these things, there might be something in your brain that says, wait a minute, is this illegal? As teachers, we spend so much time writing and crafting lessons. When we see something do it in a matter of seconds, we think something's wrong or it's illegal or it shouldn't be used. That's just because we work so dang hard as educators. When something amazing like this pops up, we don't think it's real, but it is. And so prompt engineering is very important. It's a technique. And the more you are nuanced and how to use it, it's very important, because over 7,000 roles listed right now on business websites are for prompt engineers, up to $350,000 with zero coding experience needed. AI is something that can be used at little to no cost for businesses to create and craft new and amazing things. And finally, just before Sam jumps on, if you're interested in prompt engineering, Q puts on free PD. If you are a Q member, if you go to qlearns.org/promptpd, it's a free session on prompt engineering, September 20th. We put on free stuff every single month for Q members. And if you're not a Q member, why not join? So, Sam, I'm going to pass it on over to you, my friend, and you can take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe. I definitely agree that obviously AI is here to stay, and what a better way for us to learn about it than, experiment with it ourselves and find ways that we can use it to limit the amount of work that we have to do, to take a little bit of work off of our own plate. I will say that most of the prompt engineering techniques that you're going to see out there are not really designed for education. They're relatively generic, and so it's really this kind of exciting space, but also kind of unknown space right now to figure out exactly how to extract the highest quality responses from generative AI. And so I am curious to know, just if everybody could drop in the chat really quickly, one being you've never used ChatGPT at all, or you've used it very casually, and 4 being you feel like you could write multi-step prompts and teach people about prompt engineering and how it works, just so I can kind of get a sense of people's experience level with it. So I'm speaking to your skill. All right, cool. We got some 4s. All right. So, Joe talked a little bit about the how generative AI works. And I think it is really important to understand what generative AI is, because the better you understand it, the more likely it is that you'll be able to manipulate it. So I dropped way back in the beginning. There is some vague data out there. It is hard to find, but you can find where ChatGPT got their data sets. It's primarily data that comes from Wikipedia. Companies are now using it from Reddit. Google's pointed even from Gmail. So basically what happens is that they feed an AI model a ton of data, and over time, the AI model learns the linguistic patterns that it interprets in that data set, and then it gets some training, from actual humans to refine the way it's responding. But kind of think of it like this very sophisticated game of Mad Libs, where basically it is trying to find the most likely response or the most likely way to fill in the blank after you enter a prompt. Now, ChatGPT actually has built in it randomization, which is why it gives you a random response. Now, why is this important to know? One is that probably the single most important thing to know about it when you're crafting prompts is to be specific. So jargon, descriptive language are the key to getting high quality responses. If you think about the way that it works, it makes sense. So if you, and I'll drop a few examples in and show you a few examples right now, so you can just test this out for yourself. So if you have a ChatGPT account, pull it up and see. If we ask a very generic question, like write me a lesson plan for XYZ topic, and I'll drop this in for you all right here so you can see this, actually plug them in for yourselves. You're going to see that basically it's going to give you an unknown response, right? It's not necessarily that it's going to be a bad response, but you're just telling it relatively generic information. And so what's happening is that every instance in its memory that it can go look for and access lesson planning is vast, right? It's massive. So it doesn't know what specific type of lesson planning you're looking for, right? And so the more you can specify what it is that you're looking for, the more it's going to narrow down how it accesses what it's essentially going to access in the linguistic patterns that it's learned. So if you plug in this prompt, I'm not showing my screen yet, but I will right now. So if you plug in a prompt like, give me create a 10th grade biology lesson about cell structure. I'm using ChatGPT 4, which is the more powerful model of ChatGPT. It's been trained on a larger data set. It's undergone more fine tuning from actual humans that are helping to manipulate its responses. So it already generates relatively, comprehensive responses. Here you can see, for example, it's saying, okay, it seems to be following a relatively traditional instructional model: introduction, direct instruction. There's probably going to be like a we do, guided practice, you do, independent practice. So this is going to follow, right, a relatively generic lesson planning model. Now, my interest in prompt engineering actually came about because I heard about, the wonders of AI and stuff like that. And I started seeing things like this and I thought, like, it's okay. It's not blowing my mind, And so I did a course that I would recommend everybody check out. You don't have to take it, but you can also just take it in little pieces. It's free. It's called learnprompting.org. And this is not specific to education. It's just basically teaching you how machine learning works, how to prompt engineer. And what I've done over time is essentially just experiment with a lot of the strategies that I learned in this course and just in my own kind of interest in digging in to learn about it, to figure out how to essentially engineer prompts that are higher quality so that you're getting better responses. So if we look at another one, so let's take it up a notch where instead of just asking for a basic lesson plan, now we're going to give it some specific language. So I'm going to ask it now to give me a lesson plan. Well, first of all, I'm going to give it a role. I'll talk about this in a moment. I'm going to tell it that you are a 10th grade biology teacher specializing in project-based learning. This is intentional. So what I want it to do is, again, go find word association with project-based learning now, and essentially like hone in on the word pile, right, for project-based learning. Your task is to create a highly engaging hands-on lesson plan on cell structure that aligns with the CA, with the California Common Core standards. So my expectation now is, rather than just seeing this I do, you do, we do lesson, that I'm going to get some kind of project-based lesson out of this. So now I'm going to enter this in a totally different one. And there's a reason for that I'll explain in a moment. So I'm going to open up a brand new chat instead of putting it in the same one. And okay, it already, it's going to pull up a project-based lesson. It is now also giving me some Common Core standards, although, I may have to now go in and ask it to actually identify which specific Common Core standards it's aligned with. But it is now giving me a project here. So students will understand the functions and structures of various cellular organelles by comparing them to components of a city. And now it's going to break down essentially how to do this for a project. So now it's a little bit better than what we just got, right? So let me put that prompt in for you if you wanted to try some variation of that. So if you wanted to say, whatever subject you teach and plug this in and kind of see what this looks like. Now, you can take it up another notch and get even more specific by actually telling it what type of lesson sequencing model you want it to use. So I basically took the same exact prompt, but this time I asked it to give me a lesson that uses the 5Es framework. So again, I'll put this down below and drop that in if you want to try this. So now my expectation is that, again, it's going to kind of look in the word pile. It's going to understand. I am telling it, I probably don't need to, but I'm telling it just to verify, to know that, it understands what the 5Es is. And the whole first part is the same. Okay, so now my expectation is that it's going to actually break this lesson into the components of the 5Es, which it is. So now it's giving me some ideas for an engage type activity. It's giving me ideas for an explore activity. It's giving me ideas for an explain activity, and it's going to give me elaborate and evaluate. So this is now getting closer to what I would actually want it to produce, something that I would find useful. Now, so this is the very first kind of concept, is just that, and this actually speaks to Joe's point too about the importance of prompt engineering and the fact that I think in some ways we should kind of maybe tone down the fear a little bit, because you actually have to be quite knowledgeable to get it to give you high quality outputs. So the more you know about a subject, right, and the jargon, the language about it, like I know about some things about lesson design, it's cutting some of the time out for me to have to think about it, right? I can ask for certain things, but if I don't know anything about lesson design, I'm going to get a relatively generic lesson, right? So I think one way to think about this for us as teachers is that it actually can scaffold the process of doing this work, which can, like when I built curriculum like this, took me years to build. And now I'm building new curriculum for a new class that I'm teaching in a much faster way. I know the jargon and the language for it, so I can ask it for what I want. Now, I want to show you another example. So now that we've kind of established this opening, which I like to refer to as essentially setting the table. So what I mean by that is that you're basically going to start in a very broad sense, and then you're going to continue to go more narrow. So if, we're going to start with this kind of outline of a lesson, but this is just really the first piece. So now I might want to hone in and get it to revise some aspects, because, for example, right now I don't see any technology integration. So I might want to ask it to create a technology-based project instead of just this city cell project that looks like it's going to be done basically on paper, right? I'd have to look at that a little bit closer. Now, again, if I could say revise the elaborate section to incorporate a technology-based project. Now, again, this is not very specific. I have no idea what's going to come up, but my guess is that it's going to pull up something like, maybe, we'll see, right? Maybe like a PowerPoint or something like that. Like, it's not going to give me a very specific tech tool that we might be familiar with, that we might think of as like, oh, that's more project-based or more, a technology tool that we might use. It's not so bad, right? Okay, so actually it's pretty good, Minecraft or Tinkercad, right? But maybe you have no idea how to use Minecraft or Tinkercad, right? Like, that's just not kind of in your wheelhouse. It's not what you would do. So again, you can be more specific by giving it some examples. So this is what's referred to in prompt engineering as few shot prompting. So a shot is an example. So if you're able to give it any examples, then again, that helps it refine the way that it goes and essentially locates, it's not quite searching, but it's able to access what you're looking for. So can a couple of people like drop in some tech tools that they like to use? And I'm going to refine this prompt to include some tech tools, so I can show you how, if you're already knowledgeable about some stuff, you can actually get it to pull in some stuff that you like. Okay, great. So Google Slides, Pear Deck, Canva, Flip, right? So those are kind of all within this world of EdTech that a lot of us live in, right? That these are kind of these specific EdTech tools. So watch what happens if I do something like that. So what I'm going to do here, this is also important. I'm going to edit this prompt here rather than ask for it to revise it down here. Okay. Now, the reason for that is, again, just knowing a little bit about how this works. So I'm sure you've all tried it out a little bit, and or most of you, and you've noticed, right, that it has essentially a memory, and ChatGPT 4 has a longer memory. What's actually happening in the background here is that every time it appears as though it's remembering the context of the conversation, it's actually putting a little piece of code onto the response that pulls in everything above it. So everything that came above goes into the next prompt and the next response, and then it builds cumulatively like that. And then over time, it only has, like, I forget the number of characters, but it has a limit, right? So what that means is that you kind of want to filter out anything you don't want in there, because you kind of want it, you know, for lack of a better term, to be a pure thread, if that makes sense. So instead of like allowing it in my thread to have all this stuff about Minecraft and Tinkercad and things like that, if I don't want it, rather than asking it like, hey, change that, you know, change it here, it would be more effective for me to go here and edit my prompt and then say a technology-based project. I am familiar with tools like Flip, Canva, and Pear Deck. Now, what's interesting, I don't know what's going to happen here, but it doesn't always necessarily pull. It's not necessarily going to give me a Flip, Canva, Pear Deck project, but in all my experimenting with it, it does give me tools that are within that kind of sphere of tools, if that makes sense. So if you're able to name those types of tools, like I like Pear Deck, I like Flip, you know, or I like Adobe, chances are much higher that it's going to give you other related tools. Like, oh, you might want to try Padlet. That's probably something, you know, that Padlet, the word Padlet, comes up frequently when other people are talking about Canva and Flip and things like that. So that, again, speaks to the importance of the word association. Now, another thing that I love to do, well, actually, let's see what it did. Hold on. Okay, so actually what it did is it gave me some options for Canva, Flipgrid, and Pear Deck. So, you know, that's potentially interesting. Now, now that it's kind of in a place where I'm like, yeah, I like this, I want to just stick with, I'll just stick with the Canva project right now. Now, again, if I'm thinking about kind of prompt engineering, like a funnel where I'm going to start very broad and then go in narrow, I'm going to follow up now by asking it to generate a rubric. So essentially, I'm going to backward plan right now, right? So I have this kind of outline, and now I want it to generate a 4-point rubric for the Canva project, in which 4 is, you know, exceeding expectations, and pull in the California standards. We'll see how it does. Sometimes it does this well, sometimes it doesn't. So it should now create a rubric that is aligned with the standards and that is about this particular project. So looks like it's pretty good, but it's also not in a format that I like all that much. To me, this is not all that usable. So another cool trick with ChatGPT is that you can also ask it to format its responses using a particular type of format, right? So again, I can actually, in this one, it's okay. I could either edit this or I could just ask, you know, down below here, because it's not really giving it new information. So I'm going to say format the rubric as a table. So this gives me, this makes it easier now for me to basically pull this and copy and paste this over somewhere else. So it's going to generate an actual table for me here. I've tried experimenting with this with like 5E's lesson design with choice boards to get it to essentially create a formatted table and make a choice board. and it works pretty well. So this is, again, an example of how we can, I think, definitely start to play around with it, experiment with it, begin to understand how it works in terms of needing to be really specific in your prompts and get something that is useful. You know, this is something, yeah, like I could actually potentially use this. I might need to make some revisions of this, but it's something that I could probably use. And in my opinion, I found that this use case of ChatGPT is better than like the pure generative stuff. So if I just ask it to like just generate me something, you know, it's, in my opinion, so far, I'm sure this is going to change, but it's just not that high quality. But if you're kind of asking it to do these types of tasks that don't actually require like tons of creativity, it's really great for stuff like this. That, you know, would be really time intensive for me to create a rubric. Now, you can, I know we're running low on time, but just to show you another thing, like you can also ask it for things like, now compose instructions for students explaining how to complete the project. Use examples relevant to this specific lesson. Format the instructions with headers and emojis. So what I'm going for here is I want it to actually now give specific examples. So this is not just a generic, like, oh, you know, here is how you use Canva or something like that. It's going to now actually give examples that are specific to the project that they are working on. Again, this is like one of the beauties of ChatGPT, that you can really get it to start to remix and bring together lots of different pieces of information. And this becomes something, again, where you could potentially take something like this and you could copy and paste this and revise it. And now it has actually a pretty accurate, you know, description of the project here. I don't obviously have to look at it closer, but I've done this plenty of times and it works quite well. A couple of other small tricks I'll leave you with before. And also, I'm gonna share this with everybody. So this is, I essentially have kind of come up with this lesson design process. I'm not going to go into this in great detail, but I'll share this with everybody. And basically, you can copy and paste a lot of this stuff if you want. So if you want to like try giving it different roles, you know, you can do that. So if you try, you know, you can try to say like, hey, give me a lesson plan in the style of Catlin Tucker. And it's going to say Catlin Tucker is known for blended learning and universal design for learning. And it's going to generate a lesson that is like that. You know, it's pretty cool. Actually, here, I'll show you real quick, because I've gotten some like amazing responses just from this prompt alone, like a very brief prompt. Play the role of author and educator Catlin Tucker. You know, so anybody, you know, like Maria Montessori, right? Or, you know, anybody who has internet history, who is well known prior to 2021, you know, then you can, again, access word piles that are near that person's name to get it to generate some pretty high quality stuff. And what I can do as well, so you can share chats. So I can grab all the links to these so you can see these later, and then I can like share them back so that you all can access them. So this is pretty good. You know, this without me having to even give it, actually, this is not, I don't love this one as much because it's still kind of giving me this like direct instruction. It's interesting. Sometimes I'll get really high quality ones like this one. Look, I did this yesterday. Totally different. You know, it gave me one that said they're going to do like a digital journal assignment here. You know, she's an advocate for blended learning and tech integration. It already designed it out in the 5Es because she advocates for the 5Es too. You know, so I mean, you don't know always, right, how it's going to respond. So what you can access in this guide here, in addition to these role ideas, I've also given just kind of a guide where obviously you're not going to put all this stuff in here, but these are kind of keywords where if you wanted to drop any of this stuff in, like give me a lesson that, you know, follows the educational theory of constructivism. So you want students to do more exploratory type activities. or that uses blended learning or flipped instruction. So all these jargon type words that are going to help it like way hone in on a specific type of instructional model that you're looking for. All this stuff would be good to include when you're asking it to build a lesson. So this is in the slides that I didn't already share it right here with everybody. And then yeah, I'll also share the chats. A couple of other things just to know. One is to ask it to justify its responses. So when you say like, give me, like a project idea, ask it to justify why it gave you that idea. And that will, that will also help you to kind of fact check it. So this issue of it generating, and actually that's kind of a way to short circuit the problem of it generating fake information, because basically it wants to please you. So even if it doesn't know, it'll still try to create something. So the trick is that you ask it to justify its response. So if you're ever unsure, say, justify why give me an explanation. And if it's, not able to, sometimes it will even check itself. It'll say like, oh, I'm sorry, that was actually incorrect or whatever. It's interesting. Yeah, I love also Joe's example of summarizing, what you can do with that summary. Like you drop it in. So you have something like this, like, hey, there's an article about Genius Hour. You take this whole thing, you copy and paste this entire thing about what Genius Hour is about. You just take it, you copy it in, you say, summarize this article. Oops. You can cut me off too if I need to be cut off, and I'm like going over. Okay, so I say like summarize this article, pull out key points about Genius Hour. Okay, so my expectation again is that it's going to pull out, basically extract what Genius Hour is all about, and then you can start to mash this stuff together. So I have this nice summary that I want to store, by the way, in like a Google Doc, so that I can come back and access this later. So now I have this description of what Genius Hour is. So maybe you're not that familiar with it, but you're curious about it, right? So now I'm going to go back to my cell structure lesson, and I'm going to paste this in, and I'm going to say, how can I incorporate Genius Hour as described in the summary above, right? And then ask it to now find a way to bring Genius Hour into this particular lesson. So again, this kind of idea of taking lots of ideas and mixing and matching them together to get different results. So that is why I think it's actually helpful. It's very helpful to think of ChatGPT not so much as a generative tool. Of course, it is a generative tool, but as more of kind of like a remixer. So where it is really powerful is when you're asking it to like remix lots of different ideas together. And that's where it can also be a massive time saver for you. And this is why they're paying people, $350,000 to prompt engineer, because if you can do it, with like apply some more skill and kind of understanding about how it works to manipulate it, essentially to get it to give you the good stuff, then you can get really high quality work out of it. All right, well, I could talk for hours about this stuff, but thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Sam and Joe. I'm going to pause there for a second. And this is my favorite time when we have an opportunity, maybe 5 minutes. If anybody has a question that came up that you would like to ask either Sam or Joe, we're going to take just the next 5 minutes for some Q&A. You're getting lots of appreciation in the chat.
I can respond to this question that Aaron asked, it's a really good question about like tools that people are building.
Yeah, will you go back and share the question again? Because I missed it.
Aaron, do you want to say your question? Oh, yeah. So yeah, Aaron asked, do you prefer to use ChatGPT versus AI tools just for educators like Magic School AI? And if so, why? So lots of tools are being built right now that people are creating to basically take the work out of prompt engineering right? And this is probably the future of AI. So in all likelihood, we won't need to do all this prompt engineering in the future because they're going to be all these tools that kind of have it built into the code. The issue with those, I'm totally for these tools. And I think as much as we can make AI accessible and help teachers like get the work done, the issue with these is like Magic School AI, for example. It's a great company. I love them, right? No knock on them at all. But the person who is basically determining how it's responding is the CEO of that company, right? So that's who's determining, like when you put a lesson in there, he's on the back end saying, give them a I do, we do, you do lesson, and then it's populated in that format. So that's my only hesitation about that is, there's somebody back there that is putting that code on it that's allowing you to not have to do that prompt engineering work. And until I know for sure, like that person is doing work that's aligned with my vision, which, is essentially like make learning as accessible as possible. And so I want some UDL experts in there personally, like, being the ones who are making sure that the responses are aligned with UDL. I think when we see that, then that's great. Then it is actually taking a lot of the legwork out of it, because it's a lot of work to have to prompt engineer. And to be honest, I have to be completely honest, I'm not sure if it's in overall saved me a ton of time, because I actually spend a lot of time like prompt engineering and manipulating and playing around with it and stuff like that. So, eventually it's going to get better, but yeah, just be careful about that kind of stuff. I do think Magic AI is a great tool, but just so you know kind of what's happening there.
Yeah, and I would say it's very similar to like a microwave dinner versus being your own chef, right? Oh. And then there's varying degrees of chefs. But these companies are delivering you almost a completed meal, and you have to deal with the ingredients they've given you. You could always do a chopped in your home and mix it up, but it's basically they're giving you that template, that platform. And one of the great things with ChatGPT, if you want to dig around, is if you go to your account, there's custom instructions that are in there, and you can actually tell the ChatGPT engine how you want it to respond. You can give it the role of the grade level or of the expert in that, so that whenever you prompt it to do something, it reverts back to, okay, what are my custom instructions? I'm going to follow those, so you don't have to constantly keep typing those in to your prompts. For example, whenever I ask it to write an email home to a parent, it always, without fail, starts with, I hope your day is going well. And if you never want to hear it say that again in the custom instructions, say never start emails with, I hope your day is going well. So digging deeper into those facets, you can really customize these tools how you want it to deliver. But if you go to these other companies, again, like Sam says, they're great companies. They're the ones that are custom engineering the instructions for you. Whereas these tools, you can custom engineer those.
I don't use, I use ChatGPT for so many purposes that I can't use this feature. But if you're only using it for teaching, a huge time saver is to use the new custom instructions feature. So this is a brand new feature, not brand new anymore, but basically what it allows you to do is give it a monster prompt. So like this is actually, you can see one that I use for like business. Like I'm a teacher who runs a small business that provides online professional development. We create micro courses about how to integrate technology for UDL. Courses are distinct because they're built using the same EdTech programs. Every course is designed using Explore, Explain, Explain. So now I don't have to put that in, right? So now if I turn this on, every single time that I ask it a question, it's already taking this into account. So next time, if I just say like, help me design, a micro course about X thing, it knows I want to use Explore, Explain, Apply and use the same programs and blah, blah, blah. So if, try to do these things like once, like build a monster high quality prompt, store it, and then plug it in. And this is a good place to do it. It's in the settings if you hover over your name.
And that's a great tip too. There's an extension if you are a Chrome user, which the majority of the world is. There's an extension called Prompt Genius that actually lets you store all your favorite prompts in an easily searchable database right on your ChatGPT. And one of my favorite things that this does is, let's say that you are creating this novel role play. In the prompt, I put tags when I upload it into this Prompt Genius, and it creates, just like kind of what Sam was talking about, it creates an actual Mad Libs of the prompt. So it's the same prompt, but I want to change the novel that I want my students to talk about. I want to change the author. I want to change the characters that are going to be conversing with one another in this role play. And so instead of having to retype that prompt every time or copy and paste the prompt and know you have to go in and adjust it, it creates a Mad Libs for you where you can make it new every time. So this has saved me so much time. You know, like when Sam shares an amazing prompt and I want to be able to use it, instead of having a Google document, go back, copy, paste, go in, I can just add it to my my prompting here. And, you know, all I do is bring up my new prompt, grab it, title it, write the prompt, and then use the tags that it's sharing with me if it's going to be a Mad Libs prompt. And then I can tag it, parent, teacher, student, whatever it's going to be used for. And then it has these categories I can add it to. Unfortunately, you can't add categories to it. I wish you could, but you can't. But this has been a fantastic tool that I've utilized to really get those prompts going if I'm using the same kind of, the same template over time.
I saw there was a question about like just you're getting started. I'm gonna shamelessly plug. I have a free course called ChatGPT 101. It's relatively brief, but it walks you through like the whole interface and the differences between 3.5 and 4 with some examples. Shows you basically all the tools within it and how to use it. So if you're interested in checking that out, it's free. I just dropped in the link.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. It's really hard for me to stop you both because I'm learning. Like, I'm so glad I put myself as a 2-3 because now I already feel like I have so many more things to explore. But I'm going to pause here and end with the last part of our session today, which is all of the details for how you sign in and the asynchronous work. So I just want to thank you both again, Sam and Joe, for sharing today and for giving all of those great examples, not only the background information about AI, but also really concrete examples for how to use them as educators. We've collected Joe and Sam's resources here. They're on the slides, so we will be sharing them back out with you in a reminder email. I've also grabbed all the things from the chat and saved them in tabs, so I'll be adding those to the slides as well to make sure that we've got everything there for you. And we're going to switch into our closing. So at this point, we're going to talk about some connections to computer science, as well as give you a feedback form and the stipend information. So really quickly, I just want to go back to a comment that Vicky actually shared in the chat. Thank you so much, Vicky. She highlighted that it's really important that not only are we using these as educators, but we're also sort of pulling back the curtain for our students in terms of thinking about how these tools are designed, how they're developed. And Kristen touched on this a little bit too in her comments in the chat when we're really thinking about the bias that can be built into the data sets that these tools are using. So when we're thinking about connecting these items to computer science, here are some CS standards that are drawn upon when we're thinking about AI, both data and analysis and the impacts of computing. Kat shared with us in the beginning that there was a webinar. If you were watching today and thinking, oh my gosh, my admin needs to get on board, I just dropped the link into the chat for the CDE Presents Artificial Intelligence, Learning with AI, Learning About AI. So that is a webinar series that the CDE will be offering with fundamental skills for educators and students. In addition, there is another webinar coming up from the CDE on CS Horizons. Thank you, Lily, is helping me to drop these links in the chat as well. That's on September 19th from 4 to 6 p.m. Okay, here is our feedback form. We want to make sure that these playgrounds are what they are designed to be, which is a fun space for us to convene and to play and learn some new EdTech tools. So please go ahead and fill in that feedback form to let us know what you thought of today's session. We use your feedback to improve each session. Speaking of which, our next event is happening on November 7th from 3:30 to 5. We have two other amazing speakers. We'll be joined by Reshton Hurley and Ed Campos, and they'll be talking to us about ways to activate student voice and choice in assignments. If you registered for today's session, guess what? You're automatically registered for the next one. So you'll be receiving the reminder emails with the Zoom links, so you've already got yourself covered. We also have a Facebook group. So if you would like to join our growing Facebook group, we invite you to do so. It's a collection of all of those people that you saw on the map when you first joined, asking questions, sharing posts, sort of digesting. I know that there was so much information that was shared today, so it's a space for you to sort of comment, hey, what was that link that Sam shared? Or like, has anyone dug into the resources from Joe, and talking and sort of having some chat that continues beyond today. If you are interested in receiving a stipend for attending today and you're a California educator, we're going to talk about those details now. If you are not in California or you're not interested in receiving a stipend for doing asynchronous work, you're welcome to say goodbye for the evening. But really quickly, I'm going to just share the information about getting a stipend. So I'm putting into the chat our attendance record Google form. You renamed yourself at the beginning, but we also ask that you go into this form. This works as a sign-in form. It gives you a record of being here this evening, which is part of receiving the stipend. And it also gives you access to the asynchronous assignment, which is the other half of receiving a stipend. Let me explain what I mean. So for each EdTech Playground, you attend our live session, and then you complete an asynchronous assignment. And together, those two pieces make you eligible as a California educator to receive a $125 stipend for each EdTech Playground that you attend and then complete an assignment. You can be a counselor, a district admin, librarian, paraprofessional, school admin, teacher, TOSA, all those things, and be eligible as long as you work in California. If you have a friend who you think might be interested, please share this information with them. The asynchronous assignment is, we're EdTech people, we love EdTech, so it's in the form of a hyperdoc using the 5 E's lesson format. Basically, you attend the playground, you explore some of the resources that the presenter shared, and then you create an artifact. We've intentionally left it open because we know that each of you are coming from different grade levels, different subject areas, different contexts. So we want you to just do something with what you learned today and then post it on Padlet. Don't forget, if you're trying to get a stipend, please remember to put your name on your Padlet artifact. You'll see when you go to the Padlet, all of the resources that were created by educators like you from our last playground. So there's a ton of math EduProtocols that are there. You can grab those, the ideas to share. And then you also create a reflection on Flip. You turn in your assignment, and then that makes you eligible for the stipend. So just a reminder, after that happens, we on the back end, our team will confirm your attendance and that you've submitted your work. Then the CDE Foundation will send you an encrypted W-9 form to sign via DocuSign. You'll upload your required information. The CDE Foundation will process your paperwork and send you a stipend. I know that that was so much information in a short amount of time. Please do not forget to sign in if you're interested in that. If you're interested in the stipend, yes, I will go back to the assignment slide. You can access all of this information on the slides. It's 5 p.m. I'm going to pause. You're welcome to enjoy your evening. If you have questions, I will stay on for a few more minutes because I know that that information was so fast. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us, and we can't wait to see you again on November 7th.
Stephanie,
Yes.
once we review the assignment, you told me, or you told us to upload it to a Padlet. Where's the Padlet?
Great question. Let me walk you through. So I'm going to click into an example of the HyperDoc. It's not the exact one from this session. But you'll see that when you scroll down to the section about the Padlet, this links directly to the Padlet that you want to post on. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible. The HyperDoc has all the links for you in that one space. Are there other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks,
Thank you,
Violet.
Sam. Thank you, Joel.
I have a quick question. I completed the attendance form. Can I complete the feedback form another time when I'm
Yes.
going to do? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Kim.
All right, Stephanie, I have a quick question. I am
Yeah.
in Oregon, and I know I can't do the California stuff, but sometimes we need like printouts that we attended certain things for that. Is there any way that if I put my name on that, would you guys be able to pump that out? I don't know what they need. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. Jennifer, why don't you go ahead and fill in the attendance form so that we have that sign-in record from you? And then if you could email us and let us know, like, I need a printout, we'll go ahead and make a certificate for you that you were here at today's session.
Perfect. And I might be able to just prove through emails and stuff I gathered.
Yeah, okay.
But I will, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. And yeah, we have oh, sorry, go ahead.
This is Leslie. I just have a quick question. So when you send us slides and stuff, will you send this link to the HyperDoc because I'm on my phone?
Yes.
So I did fill out the attendance and the feedback. So, but I can't do the assignment right now.
Yes, thank you, Leslie, for clarifying. After today's session, we'll send up a follow-up email that has the slides, all the resources, as well as a link to the assignment so that there's nothing that you need to grab from today's session that won't be emailed to you after the fact.
Perfect.
We'll send that all out.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. It was really great, by the way. I enjoyed it a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Leslie. That's so great to hear.
Hi there, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I was not able to change my name. It's on a nickname. I'm also on my phone. I know that one of the forms said for the stipend you need to be here with your regular name. Can I just put that on the attendance in brackets? The name that's just plain.
That's such a great idea. That would be super helpful if you could do that. And that's perfect. What a great solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. The attendance form will not be emailed to you if you missed it. So let me grab that for you really quickly.
Another phenomenal session. I loved it. Last time was my first one. This is the second one. I brought my 2 best friends with me. So I'm going to try to bring more people next time. I brought 2. So that was 3 from LUSD. I'm going to try to bring some more.
All right. Thank you, Gloria. That's what we love to hear. Thank you so much.
I also brought a buddy today, very last minute. We just announced it at our professional development today we were doing the exact same thing, just a little different perspective. And so it was fantastic to be able to invite a teammate, as well as you did so much of the work that I needed to do. So awesome. The timing was amazing. Thank you for all that you guys do.
That's
huge
so great.
Fans. Huge
Thank
fans.
you, Amy. Patrick, do you have a question? I see you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing sound. Okay, you can put it in the chat too.
Patrick's one of mine.
Oh, yay. Okay, Patrick's your friend. Awesome. We're glad to have you, Patrick.